Whether you have a personal brand or not, this episode is a must listen if you have a business. Creating a personal brand or a magnetic brand in general is so important to creating a really great pull to people to want to purchase from your business, to want to use your business, to want to work with you. My special guest today, Suz Chadwick, is going to share some incredible insights on the power of personal branding and how you can nail down what your personal brand should be like, what you should focus on, how you should do it, and kind of really inspire us as to how we can grow our business using this hugely powerful and sometimes underrated tool. So if you don't know Suz is a personal brand and business coach working with mostly women to help them build powerful personal brands, to get out of their own way and to show up to magnetize the clients and opportunities that they want. So excited for this episode. I'm going to stop babbling now so we can dive on in. Enjoy. Welcome, Suz, to the podcast. I am so thrilled to have you here. How are you doing?
I'm so good. Thanks so much for inviting me on.
We've had a discussion before, and that was many moons ago. So I'm excited for an updated discussion. Before we dive in, though, I want to ask you the question I ask all of my guests, which is, what does an average day in the life of Suz Chadwick look like? Like, what is a bit of behind the scenes? Let us behind the curtain of. Because I just love asking my guests this question, because I think we see the shiny Instagram side, but we never see the actual, how does your life actually run? Like, how are you running this business? And I know you have a family as well. Like, what's a day-to-day actually look like?
Yeah, so I would say that most of the time I am quite an early bird. So my body automatically wakes up usually anywhere between like 5 and 6:30. On a bad morning like this morning, it was 4:30. And then I lie there thinking, am I going to get up? Am I not going to get up? So I eventually get up. And so I get a lot of creative work done, like literally in my pajamas. The whole house is still asleep. I'll grab a little coffee. And that's when I like to write, or I like to start planning things. I think that my best energy is before midday. So I usually work up until about 2. As far as external things go. So if I'm running a coaching call, if I'm on a podcast, if I'm having like with a client, I'm always trying to do that probably before 2. I feel like my brain says no after about 2:00, but I think it's because I'm such an early bird. So like in the morning, I'm like at 5, I can be at 5:30 and I'm like, let's freaking go, so I'm definitely a morning person. But for me, the kids leave for school at about 8:00. So between sort of 7 and 8, I'm getting ready and the kids are getting ready and all the rest of it, because they're both in high school.
Wow.
Which is crazy. And the hubby leaves at 7 as well. So we're all really early risers. And then in my diary, booked out, locked and blocked from 8:30 to 9:30 every morning is content creation. And that can look like anything. That's like, I could be recording a podcast. I could be writing a caption. I could be writing my book, which is like forever happening, by the way. And, or I could be recording a reel or something like that. So I've just made it a practice that every morning that is part of my day. And it could be 10 minutes, but I've got an hour where that's what I give myself to be able to create. Because something that I've really started to adopt in the last year or 2 is content brings clients.
Yeah.
Like
that's so true,
like it's just like, I'm just like, whether you like it or not, and a while ago I was like, oh, like I've got to post. So I just post, and I wouldn't really have the mindset of like, this is how business works now. So anyway, so that's something that I lock and block. It's a non-negotiable. It's not, will I do it? It gets done every single day. And then the rest of my day between like 9:30 and 2:00 usually is client calls, podcasts, group coaching calls, me creating new content for client containers, those sorts of things.
Yeah. Amazing. And then what happens after, like kids, dinners, bedtimes?
All the rest of it. I don't really do bedtimes now because obviously the kids.
Well, your bedtime.
My bedtime. I go to bed at 10:00 every night, pretty much bang on. And then, after 2:00, I'll still work, but I just won't do anything external.
Yeah.
Like client facing. So that's kind of like, I might do some other things, and then dinner, the kids get home, all the rest of it. Like we all chill out together. Whatever happens, happens. Like sometimes their friends will come over and have dinner with us and those sorts of things. So yeah, it's very chill between, like 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock is family time
Yeah.
because the kids get home then. And then after that, my hubby and I just sit and chill, and they go chill in their room until they go to bed.
Such a different season. I love that.
Yeah.
And that's so nice. Cool. Thank you for sharing that. I love a bit of insight, and that the content time is really important. I'm finding that myself, like I just had a bit of a break from doing content because I was full on, and with a new baby, it was full on. So I did a lot, and then I had a break. And then when I came back from doing it, from having a bit of a break, I was like, oh, look, there's sales coming in. Of course they are, because I'm back posting again. You know, like it just, like there's other things that I'm doing that are always happening. But then if I'm not, there's something happens when you just are showing up. Actually, this is wild, especially for at least our sort of businesses. So I think different businesses are different, but this is definitely for our sort of business makes a big difference. Okay, so I want to chat to you a little bit today about personal brand. And I want to kind of give us some definitions or have us all on the same page before we begin, because obviously personal brand and brand has brand in it, but it's a little bit different to what I speak about with brand, but not totally different, but a little bit different in terms of the focus. And so I'd love to know how, I guess, you define brand, personal brand in the ways that you speak about it and educate on it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I talked about brand for a really long time, as you know, as well. I come from a brand strategy background myself. And so that was always really about looking at how the business becomes a place that people know about and they trust and they come back to again and again. It's about building that kind of trust cycle. And there's lots of different ways to be able to do that. I feel like we've really massively shifted into a personal brand era now because there are so many businesses online. You know, we are buying from people. And so your personal brand in my world is really about how you create personal connections and alignments with people where they want to come back to you. Yeah. So, for example, I could go and work with a business, and it doesn't really matter who in the business I work with because so it's like Apple. I'll go buy the product. I've got no idea who's selling it to me. I've got no idea, who the executive team are, etc. But they've got a really strong brand. And so who delivers it to me doesn't really matter. When we've got a personal brand now, which is what a lot of obviously solopreneurs and smaller businesses are, it's about how we're building trust online, and they want our thought leadership. They want our way of doing things. A lot of times they want us. And obviously you can still scale as a small business and a personal brand, but at the end of the day, the reason that they're buying is because of you. And that doesn't happen in bigger brands usually.
Yeah. And so obviously a great power point of a personal brand is building that trust and that like buying from you kind of thing. Are there any other benefits to building a personal brand other than that trust kind of piece?
I mean, the trust piece is massive, and I'll tell you why. And it's been really interesting. I've kind of been very much on a journey where, we've kind of come from, you and I have been in business for a long time, and we've come from like a funnel type marketing background, as far as that's something that we were taught, that's something that we've used, and I still believe in them. But I think one of the things that I'm really loving and I'm listening to a lot is that when you've got a personal brand and people are coming to you organically, you don't really have to sell. Yeah. So for example, when there's a funnel that's evergreen, and I feel like I'm not complete on my thinking around it at the moment, but it's like we send ads out, and depending on how you send ads out, if you're doing it to a cold audience, they're like, oh, this is a thing that I might be interested in. Let me go check it out. There's no association with you. There's no love and trust factor. There's no magnetic pull, so you still got to really sell them on it. And I still think a marketing strategy needs a little bit of both, but I think we're really moving towards the personal brand magnetism of people keep coming back to you and you don't have to sell them. They're literally like, how do I work with you? Like, where do I go click? Like, what have you got? And I love that when you get a DM where somebody's like, so what do you offer?
Yeah.
Like, how do I get in here?
Yeah.
And that's what a personal brand does, as opposed to where you've got like a funnel and it's cold and now you've got to like nurture them, etc., which still works. But I think it's just a really interesting shift that I think I'm seeing.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Cool. And so how do we, like, if we want to build, like, say a business is either, maybe they haven't really owned the fact that they are a personal brand, how can we kind of take those first steps to be like, all right, I am a personal brand and this is me, and like building that magnetic pull, but building that pull, yeah, I guess, to work with us as a personal brand.
Yeah, the first thing that we have to do, and I mean, I've got kind of my own personal brand method that I talk about, which I can take you through too. But at the end of the day, it's got to be authentically you. And so there are certain people that are online right now, and it's not about perfection. It's not about all shiny and amazing. I am currently obsessed with Amy Smale, who is the founder of Odd Muse, which is a fashion brand. And she's on TikTok, and basically her business has grown. She used to be a buyer at ASOS, and now she started this label, which has gone viral basically. And within 4 years, they're now basically about to be at 50 million pounds. And she's just like, can't even cope with the growth of it. And she just shares the entire journey online. And I am there with my popcorn, like, going back to her, but going back to her account, watching what's happening. She had a breakdown the other day, and then Stephen Bartlett reached out to her and's like, I can help you. Like, I'm just like, it's like business soap. Yeah, business soap. And I love it. But the thing, you know what the thing is, and this is the same with Brittany Saunders from the Fate the Label, is that we're so invested in the person. It's going back to what I said before, where I'm like, what have you got? Yeah. Like, how do I buy from you? I don't know what you've got, but I love you so much. I'm so invested in you that I'm just like, how can I give you my money? And that's how I feel. It's really interesting because Fate the Label is not my vibe at all. I keep going back to look at it because I love Brittany so much. I never buy anything, but I try. I'm like, maybe they've got something new that I will like. And with Odd Muse, I'm like, I know that I will have an Odd Muse in my wardrobe soon. Like, it becomes aspirational.
Yeah.
And a while ago, I was at a big event and I spoke at it, and I was talking about what I call like magnetic magic. And I believe that when you are authentically you and you take your audience on the journey with you, and it's not just about like what you do, but it's like who you are as well. And this doesn't mean you have to share all the private things, but it creates this magnetic, pull towards people. And then it creates aspirational desire, which is exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about Odd Muse and Brittany. It's like, one day I'm going to buy that. It's like, I want it. I wish for it. I'm in. I'm here. Like, I may not buy it now. And I've got clients that come to me and they're like, I can't afford to work with you now, or I'm not ready. But let me tell you, I'm coming.
It's happening. Yeah.
It's happening. And I think that, the three things of magnetic magic were having that magnetic pull, building aspirational desire, and then done energy. And done energy is like, I'm in. Like, there is nobody else for me. There is no competition. You are a category of one. You are the person they're coming to. It's not like, oh, like, I don't know who I'm going to go with. Like, no, it's you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a great, and I see that happening with my own brand sometimes. That people will come to me like, oh, Jacqui, I need to work with you. Or how can I work with you? And I'm like, sometimes like someone's not the right fit for me. I'm like, oh, you can work with someone else. And I'm like, but there's no one else. Like, it's just you. I'm like, it's not just me. There are millions of us. And even my method, like, I'm great, I know, but there are other great people out there. And it's just, being able to do that, I think creates, I guess it makes marketing so much easier. And it's such a different form of marketing almost, isn't it? Because it's less about those funnels, and like so much of the time, even with like, I have a lot of trouble with my YouTube videos because I'm like, do I bring a funnel into my YouTube videos when I share that? But a lot of the time I don't actually need to, because when someone's actually watching my videos and getting to know me, they're like, oh, I just want to work with you. Like, can I buy your program? They don't have to go through a fancy funnel. So that's really interesting. And I think we think, like, I have a lot of different sorts of businesses that listen to this podcast. I think a lot of them might say, oh, personal brand isn't for me. It's not I don't have like a personal brand kind of business, but like those fashion labels, you wouldn't have expected a fashion label to be a personal brand, but here they are. And that's the main reason you want to buy from them.
Yeah. And I think the difference is, there's a couple of things there just on that. The difference is that I might see fashion somewhere else and I might like something, but I have no emotional connection to it. And you've got to remember, like Marty Neumeyer, the godfather of branding, always said, branding is about creating emotional connection with your audience. Yeah. It's about the emotional experiences, the collective experiences that your audience have with you. That is what a brand is. And so I think that that's where we see product versus brand. I might see something and be like, that's nice, I'll buy it. I've got, like, whether I buy it or not, I'm not really that fast. It's like, it's a transaction.
Yeah.
And so you've got to decide, do you want to be a transaction for somebody, or do you want to be somebody that somebody's all in on, where they're just like, how can I give you my money? What have you got where I could just hand my money over to you because I love you so much? You're amazing. And so I think we've got to decide what kind of business we want to be. The other thing I just want to say on that, even if you're somebody who might be like a web designer or a graphic designer or a this or a that, whatever it might be, where you're like, like, I don't really think I'm a personal brand. You've got to realize that nowadays, because there are so many businesses in the market, your personal brand is your differentiator. Because I could get 10 people who could do something for me that could kind of be the same. Like, they could do the same job, but the difference will be how you communicate, your process, the way you treat your clients, the experiences that they have. And so even talking about that and the way that you do things, that is your personal brand. That is your particular way of doing it, which sets you apart from somebody else who could probably deliver the same thing, but they're not you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And like, I'm just thinking of other brands that I work with, whether it's a cleaner or whether it's a fashion company or whether it's like a random product or a random service. My brain is almost looking for reasons to love them. It's looking for reasons to connect with them. And like, if on their website, they go there and they're like, oh, we believe in this, or we look after the planet, or we do, like, if they've got a thing that they're just about, I'm like, oh, I can connect with you now. Like, I have a bit of me that is the same as a bit of you. And I can feel like we've got this point, and then I'm so much more likely to come back to them, and I'm so much more likely to purchase from them, because I feel like I'm not just giving my money to some random thing, I'm giving my money to you, and I can see you, and you look cool, and I like you, you know?
Yeah, we want to buy from people we like. I feel like that is, we want to give our money to people where we're like, this feels great for me. It's not like, oh, like I've got to pay for this. We want to like the people that we give our money to. And I use like a hamper box, like a gift box for clients. And every box that you buy, they donate a meal to a homeless shelter or something like that. Even things like that, the values, your values are part of your personal brand. And so when there's a values alignment where it's like, this, I need to have a company that does this for me. I could pick any company. I found one that I like. Not only that, but there's a values alignment in what they do with my money when I give it to them as well. And so that is all part of your brand, and I think also your personal brand too.
Yeah. Amazing. That's such a good point. And I think it's that point of almost like, it makes us feel better about spending our money if we feel like, if we like them. I think that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an excuse to spend money. Like, I bought a new dress from a brand recently, and I'd never heard of them. I just found this really beautiful purple dress, but I got the dress, and it's beautiful. It's great quality. I'm like, cool. Now I'm looking for ways to I want to buy from you again. I don't need a new dress, but I'm trying to find reasons to buy from them again, not just because they make another great dress. So yeah, that's interesting. Okay. So if someone's they're like, yep, I want a personal brand, or yes, I've already growing one. How do we actually find, like, how do we work out what's us? How do we work out what to actually push into with our brand, our personal brand?
Yeah. So when it comes to your personal brand, there's a few things to start with and think about. I always start with my clients. I'm just like, what's your purpose? And I feel like we use a lot of these words, and so they feel really empty sometimes. So for me, and think back to your story, like, why did you start your business? What is it about your industry that either like annoys you? What was something that happened that spurred you to do what you do in the way that you do it? So for example, when I started my business 10 years ago, I came out of brand strategy, and I was working with women to create their brand strategies. And we'd spend the time, we'd get it all together. They'd be like, awesome, yes, and then a month had passed, 2 months had passed, 3 months had passed, and I'd be like, hello, like, what's happening? And what I discovered that I didn't know was that there was all of these confidence, courage, mindset issues where they had the tactics, they had the strategy, but they were just not confident enough to actually execute it. And my background and what I'd done in consulting, I just hadn't really come across that before, if I'm honest. And it wasn't something that I dealt with because I've just always been somebody that just like, you got a plan, you implement the plan.
You
kind
do
of
the
thing.
thing.
You do the thing. Like that was basically my career was you do the thing. Like you've got goals, you do the work, you show up, you deliver, you move on.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was really interesting. So I interviewed like 50 women one-on-one to understand why they weren't doing the work. And it was a can of worms, Jacqui. It was a can of worms. And there was so much stuff from childhood and their experiences and their stories. And I was like, oh my God, like I was not prepared for this. And so I ended up going and becoming a certified like mindset and life coach because I had to understand what was going on for people like much deeper than what I was capable of doing, which was a fascinating process for me to go through as well. But the reason that I tell you that is that for me, my purpose has always been helping women become bold and powerful voices in the world and claim their space with confidence. And that has been something I've said now for 10 years. And it is the core of everything that I do. And so when I show up and I talk about building a personal brand and I talk about building your confidence and I talk about showing up, I'm doing it from a place of purpose where I know why that's my purpose. I've got the story to back it up. I understand why I do what I do. And so that when I talk about purpose, it doesn't have to be a big story, not like it doesn't have to be tragic. It doesn't have to be, I think people sometimes feel like I don't have this big dramatic story that other people have got. And that's not what you need. It's just really being able to say why this matters to you. And then other things within that are things like the hill. What's the hill you're willing to die on? Like, what's the opinion that you have? What is the thing that you feel really strongly about that you can kind of hang your hat on and say, this is my purpose. This is what I believe. If you believe that, come on the journey with me. Like we think about what our enemy is, which is the thing we're fighting against. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that? And then who are you also speaking to? And I think you were, before when you were sort of saying sometimes you get clients that come to you and you're like, they're not exactly the right clients for me. And that happens, I think, to a lot of us. But the other thing is becoming so super clear on who exactly you want to work with and talking about that all the time so that those types of people are like, yes, I'm your person. I'm knocking on your door.
I'm here.
Yeah, you send me the invitation. I always say your energy is your invitation. And so it's like when I show up and I'm like, if you are somebody that like wants to stand out, but you're holding yourself back. If you're somebody who wants to build a personal brand, you want to magnetize your audience, you want to do this, you want to do that. Yeah. And this is what you believe that you were meant for more, that you can do big things, but you've just got to break through some barriers to get there, but you want it. Like the invitation is open, like let's freaking go. And so I think that, when you're building your personal brand, it's that foundational stuff of purpose, hill, enemy, your who. And I think also there is identity elements there. I'm not going to go into it because there's a lot there, but how we see ourselves is what we end up doing. So, for example, for me, I had to make a really conscious effort where I'm like, okay, we do content every single morning. We sell like all the time. We do it in fun ways. We do it in overt ways. We do it in not overt ways. But we're a business. This is what we do. And so I think there's an identity element there as well when it comes to your personal brand of who do you really want to be? Like what kind of business do you really want to have? And how do you need to show up in order to do that? And what's the gap between where you are and where you want to be? And understanding that identity shift as well. So there's those core things that you can really start to look at. And it's all about just taking people on the journey. It's really not that complicated. Like if you just want to think about how do I start, It's like, what about if you share what you're working on, what you're doing, why you're doing it? What are some of the things that are going really well? What are some of the things that maybe you're struggling a little bit, but it's really interesting? Like you're kind of working through things with your audience. Like, how did you get to where you are? When I talk about, say Brittany Saunders or Amy Smale, I could tell you their entire story.
Mhm.
I know their story.
Yeah.
And so then that gives me a deeper connection because I'm like, oh my God, like I love watching them grow. And I feel like the right people who will be attracted to your personal brand, they're really like rooting for you. They're really wanting you to win. It's like you're like, I bought the dress, and then I'm like, how can I love you more? Like we want brands that we love to win. And so we want to support them. But as the brand, you've also got to be able to take your audience on the journey. And it's not just the good, it's like letting them in.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people to that point, which I agree with, would be like, oh, but that's not being professional. I'm letting, like, there's bad things, like, can't let people see this and X, blah, blah. What would you say to that?
Yeah. I mean, there's the old, there's the saying, share the scar, not the scab.
Yes.
It's like you don't have to share it when you're in it. I mean, Amy does share it, which is fine. Like it's really worked out well for her. Like, she had a breakdown the other day and Stephen Bartlett from Diary of a CEO reached out to her. So I'm like, that would be great if that happened to all of us. But I think you've got to decide how you share. So there are some people that share in the real and the raw in the moment. And if that's not you, that's fine. But what you can do is that when you get through something and you've learnt the lesson, then you can always reflect back on it. And so even the other day, I did a post where I feel like I've been creating, but I don't feel like I've been as me as I could be. Like I kind of got a bit boring in my content. And so I did a post the other day where it's kind of like, I'm sorry, I've been really boring. And the worst thing is that I teach people how to not be boring. So I don't know where I went wrong there. But I just kind of think, something sometimes you've got to call yourself out on stuff because if I can't ask, and I was literally in a coaching call the other day where I said to them, I can't ask you to be vulnerable if I'm not willing to be. And so you get to choose what that looks like. But I think it is about the balance because we do want to follow people where we can see some relation, like as in I'm not the only one. Like I'm not the only one going through this, or I'm not the only one thinking that, or I'm not the only one that's struggling. And I'm not just talking about bad things, but we want to be able to relate to people. And if your life is always perfect and amazing and nothing ever goes wrong and it's just always sunshine and roses, that's great. But I think that we lose a little bit of depth when it comes to our relatability.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, cool. Hopefully that inspires us to dive in a little bit with more, I think more of a journey as well. And like with most businesses, you have some sort of journey of like, what do you like? And I liked what you said earlier. I want to bring back to this for a moment of what to share. And you were saying like share what you're doing, but also share the how you're doing it and the why you're doing it. And I think those are like people like, oh, I'm working on X, Y, and Z today. That's fine. That's good. But if you share why or how or like the results from those things, or like, I think that brings people in deeper. It helps them to be more invested in it and helps it to kind of actually get some traction and some buy-in from people when you share the how and the why rather than just the what. Yeah, I remember that myself as well. I did that the other day, actually. I saw an Instagram kind of person pro shared a tip around stories. And I was like, oh, that's a really good point. I can share more of the why behind things. And I did that. And I got like 2 or 3 people really interested to purchase from me because I just shared what I would always had been sharing, but in a different lens. So yeah, being really strategic around that too can be useful. Okay. If we've got some ideas of what we want to share, or we want to be like, yes, I want to share more personal brand. I want to build a personal brand. How can we do that consistently rather than kind of trying lots of random things and it kind of not forming any thing that makes sense to anyone else?
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing is that it's kind of coming back to what we talked about originally around just being really authentically you. And I just say to clients, like, just start small. Nobody's asking you to like build it all in a day. And I always say, your business is your brand house. Yeah. So brick by brick, we build it. So all the stuff I was talking about before around purpose and values and the hill and like your identity and all of that, that's like the foundations. That's like the framework. Yeah. That's like what is holding the house up, is like why you do what you do, who you're here to do it for, what your conviction is, like what are you really passionate about. And then every day it's about building a brick. And the brick is your content. The brick is a connection. The brick is whatever you want it to be. And, your house, there's hundreds, if not thousands of bricks. So the thing to really think about is, what am I doing today that could help me connect more with my audience? Yeah, that could help them to learn more about me, or where I could share something. This doesn't have to be like this huge, overwhelming, all consuming thing that you do. It's just about starting small. I say to clients, like you did the other day, it's like, just share, like tell them what you're working on, and tell them that something's coming, and it's really, you're like, this is why you're doing it, and this is what you're thinking about it, and this is where you're at with it. And I said, we just love to be on the journey with somebody so that we can like support them or see what's happening or learn from their experiences. And so if you're wanting to get started, the one thing that I would say is really think about, how do I want to connect with my audience? And what is a really simple way for me to do this right now? Like, what is the least problematic, the least like massive work? I feel like I have come a long way with content. And when I still think about the very first time I got an Instagram story when they just released it, and I was like, hi, this is an Instagram story. I have no idea what it is, but here I am. And I think that we've just got to allow ourselves the fact that everything's a learning curve. Like everything is a brick, one thing at a time, until we get better at it. And I always just say, you've got to kind of be okay in the suck. You've got to be okay in the awkward, and for it to feel like not great and amazing. I'm like, I have sucked on TikTok for over a year, and I'm just continuing to suck until it doesn't suck. But you've just kind of got to get to a place where you're like, okay, like this is what I want to try. This is what I'm willing to do. I'll figure it out as I go. I know that at some point it'll click and I'll feel, oh, okay. Like I got here. There was a girl I was watching the other day, and she's like, I posted every day from February till August or something like that, July. And she's like, and I was at 200 views and I had like barely 1,000 followers. And she said, and then in August and September, I got like 6,000 followers and people started commenting and I started to get thousands of views. And she's like, but I could have stopped after like 5 months of posting every day. And I think you've just got to make a decision about where you want to be. And the other thing I'm just going to say, which I feel like I just bang on about all the time, stop expecting things to happen quickly. Stop expecting to build a business in 3 months or build a brand in 4 months or go viral in 5 months. Like I think that it happens, but it doesn't happen often. And I think we've just got to really be people who are here for the brick by brick build, and knowing what you've got and knowing how to share it and just being okay in getting better and better. Because the other thing is, Jacqui, I don't know when you started your business. I'm now 10 years.
Yeah, 10 as well.
Yeah. I've thought we started around the same time. But I just feel like it's like sometimes the market completely changes and you're like, okay, so I'm back to scratch now. So I just think you've kind of got to be okay in that, all right, like we've kind of got to scrap what we were doing and rethink the strategy. And now I've got to learn something new that I've not learned before. I'm trying to get a lot better at editing right now and kind of playing around with CapCut and B-roll and all the rest of it. And I actually quite enjoy it. Like it's not something that I don't enjoy. It just takes time. But I'm like, but content brings clients and I want to share what I've got. And so now this is the way that it happens. And so I either choose not to do it. Or I suck it up and go, right, all right, we're learning a new skill. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking about the exact same thing on a post I shared yesterday, which will be like a week ago from when this comes out. And it was just like, you want to know that my success has come from? Consistency, just doing the same thing. Like my podcast, I've been doing for over 4 years now. I've only ever had a handful of people say, I barely have any downloads, but people still, there are people there. There are people there. And then like yesterday, they're about to purchase my highest tier program because they found me and they've been binging my podcasts. I'm like, it's taken me years to get someone to say that, but it's happening. But it's only because I kept on going after 4 years of barely any results from it. And so I think it's just what you're saying about TikTok and whatever we try to do, like, don't try to do everything. That's stupid, but pick a thing. And if you know that it should work for you, then keep on going until it does, because it's that consistency that's what's going to actually get the results, not just flipping around and trying a different strategy here and trying to post different, like trying Instagram and like that didn't work and then trying something else and that didn't work. But if it didn't work, give it time to not work rather than just assuming it didn't work because you didn't give it the time that needed to kind of build that traction and almost build that clarity for yourself. It's like a muscle. Like I'm not doing TikTok and I don't know that I will, but if I did, I need to decide like I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to like TikTok, you need to post really regularly to have that growth. So you just need to commit to doing the thing that you commit to doing, you know?
Yeah. And I think the other thing that I'd really say on these things too is that it's not always one type of measurement. So I always said, the podcast for me has been amazing. I think it's been like 8 years now. And we get a lot of clients through it. But I always say, even if we didn't get clients through it, it has been one of the best things I've ever done because number one, it's gotten me a lot of speaking gigs.
Yeah.
The other thing is that it's really helped me to formulate my thinking and my ideas and my thought leadership. And it's helped me to become a much better communicator. So sometimes we're like, well, I haven't got the downloads or I haven't got the views. But it's like, but what did you learn when you did that thing? Like, what was the skill that you got better at? What was it that you did that, that's helping you move forward?
So thank you for sharing all those incredible insights. If we want to get to know you, if we're like dying to work with you, how do we get in touch? How can we get involved in your world?
So the best place is suzchadwick.com, which is SUZ Chadwick. And then I'm Suz Chadwick on all platforms.
Perfect. We'll make sure we have all of those links below so you can check those out. Thank you so much for joining us. I think that was some really, really great insights around personal brand. And like it is such a powerful tool for businesses that I don't think we utilize enough. So thank you for sharing your wonderful insights on that. I really appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So thanks for joining us, Suz and I, for that episode. I hope you found it as useful and inspiring and exciting as I did. And I want you to go out there right now and start to share something, share a little bit behind the scenes or share part of your process. Or maybe it's time that you actually did that foundational work of working out what your business's values are, what your values are as a human that you can then embed into your business to help people to be like, oh, I need to work with that woman. So thanks for joining us and I'll see you next week for another episode. Bye.